You've tuned into InvisiYouth Chat Sessions, a video podcast series. Our episode starts right now. Here's your host, Dominique Vale.
Hello everyone, welcome to the first episode of InvisiYouth Chat Sessions. I am your host, Dominique Vale. I'm the founder of InvisiYouth Charity. This is going to be checking in for your dose of all stigma-breaking, empowerment-shaping chat show of fun and life lessons and hacks along the way. Just to give you guys a little bit of background of who we are and what this show is going to be all about. We are InvisiYouth Charity, like I said. That's my organization. We are a 501c3 nonprofit that works with teens and young adults around the world who have chronic illnesses and disabilities, both physical and mental, visible and invisible illness. For us, it's a big reason to gain the right access to lifestyle tools, empowerment, and fun events to help you guys maintain daily life and have fun while you're doing it. It's a very youth-driven charity, and we're super excited to provide for young adults all around the world so they can keep living every day with their health struggles. So we're never about waiting for a cure. We're all about making tomorrow better and having fun and being young along the way. So a big thing for us is being able to connect with all of you guys virtually, because so many of you are in different countries and cities, and depending on where you're going in life, we want to be able to have all of you have access to the InvisiYouth platform and mission. So that is where the InvisiYouth chat sessions will come from. We are a video podcast series that will be out twice a month, and we will be having guests from across the United States, England, and Canada who are experts in all of their fields. So some are mental health, rare disease, and bereavement nonprofits. Others are going to be Paralympic athletes and actors in different mediums. They are business owners, they are YouTubers, social media influencers, professional Instagrammers. So we're going to have all of you amazing people who are complete activists, or what we like to call at InvisiYouth the rebel game changers, who are going to make young adult healthcare improve every single day. So we're really excited to be able to bring this virtual programming to you. A unique thing about this is that we are going to be more of a chat show. So we have themed segments throughout each of the shows, and every few months are going to be themed on a central topic that are sometimes too uncomfortable or too taboo, or a lot of times a little too common sense for others to help. For us, it's about lifestyle management. We want to make every single day better, to have fun, to have all of the life hacks and tips that you really need to make every day better. So that's a big thing for us, our goal. We want at the end of each of these hours to be sort of a cluster of entertainment and humor, motivation and advocacy, and learning a lot of different life hacks and tips and tricks from people who are the experts in these different areas. So for the next 3 months, we're going to be focusing on an area that's very important to me and my health journey. It's important to InvisiYouth and massively important to so many of you. We're going to be talking about different illnesses and disabilities that you would never see. And so for a lot of you, you'll know what that means. That's invisible illnesses. So whether it's physical health or mental health, a lot of invisible illnesses is just like the name. They're illnesses you can't see. And that makes it challenging when you're with other young people, with your peers and family and friends, when you're dealing with different health struggles that no one can notice physically. So that ranges, for a lot of you who don't know, that ranges from different cardiac conditions to lupus, Lyme disease, mental health illnesses, as well as conditions like my injuries with my nervous system and connective tissue. So they're all things that massively affect the body that you can't see, or sometimes it's mental health. So for us, we want to make the invisible visible, which is important, hence the name of InvisiYouth. And also, we want to bring validity to the visible and invisible too. So that, for the next 3 months, is us talking about how to break stigmas, life hacks of living with invisible illness, how to support those with invisible illness. And so we're super, super excited to have our very first guest of the InvisiYouth chat sessions be a friend of mine. I always joke with her that she's Twitter verified, so she's super, super awesome. She's one of the best healthcare activists we know for young adults out there. She is a 20-year-old Canadian named Ashley Rose, and I'm going to read her Twitter bio as a way for you guys to get to know her. And pretty much it sums up so many things of what makes her special. She said, I'm 20, HIV positive, We Day TEDx speaker, a singer who loves life, God, laughter, music, and a family ambassador. Ashley's been an ambassador to the We Day movement. She also, shameless plug for us, she is an InvisiYouth global brand leader. So she deals with lots of other health complexities along with being HIV positive, and her being a motivational speaker, an activist for young adults, and being able to speak to thousands of people at We Day conventions, speaking at the United Nations. Ashley's pretty much what the definition of a rebel game changer would be. So we are so excited that Ashley's going to be our first guest for InvisiYouth chat sessions and going to be playing some games with us and giving out some of her best life tips. So Ashley, you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Hi, Ashley. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, good. Sorry for the shameless plug of you being able to work with us, too.
Oh, it's fine. It was great.
So, like I mentioned to our guests, we have different segments. We're more like a chat show than a general interview, especially for a podcast. So we have different games that we're going to play with our guests. Some are more serious and motivational. Others are just fun. So for our first one, we want to let all of you guys get to know Ashley. And so our first game is the 5-second challenge. Some of you know it from YouTube as well. I'm getting her prepared for it. So it's more it's more of our fun segments where we get to learn a lot about our guests and their platforms, and just real quick, fun, random questions from who would be your favorite people at a dinner party to what's your favorite book. So, Ashley, are you ready for this?
Oh my gosh, I think so.
Trust
now
me.
I have to think about all my answers.
Oh my God. So you're going to have 5 seconds. I'm wearing a watch that clearly has a bad time hand on, so we're going to make this work.
We will.
So are you ready? We're going to start in a few seconds. Ready?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Favorite author?
Favorite author? Oh my gosh, this is already so difficult. Let's just go with John Green. Okay.
Cool. Love it.
Great.
Love it. 2 of your favorite things to do on a weekend?
Listen to music and hang out with my niece.
Awesome. What is your guilty pleasure TV show? Ooh.
Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Ooh, sorry.
Love it. Love it. I watch them too.
Guilty.
Who would be your absolute favorite activist?
Magic Johnson.
Love it. Okay.
Love the guy.
What are 2 of your ideal dream vacation locations you would go on?
Okay, I've thought about this a lot. Australia
Nice.
and probably Scotland.
Ooh, nice. I like that. Okay, ready? Name the first 3 provinces of Canada you can think of, because I need to learn some.
Saskatchewan, Newfoundland, and New Brunswick.
Love it. Cool. Oh, I like that. All right, 2 of your favorite musicians you would invite into the studio with you.
Oh, Bruno Mars, and if Amy Winehouse was alive, Amy Winehouse.
Oh, I love that. All right,
her.
2 places you would move if you left Canada.
LA or New York.
Oh, I like both coasts. I like that, representing.
Yeah, I love it.
What are about 2 places you would move in Canada?
Oh, Vancouver
Nice.
or Montreal.
Oh, I like that. That's cool. So what is your favorite, if you had to pick a favorite sport to play or a favorite sport to watch?
Soccer.
Ah, I love it. Love it. Do you have a favorite soccer team?
I'm becoming a really big fan of hockey.
Ooh.
My favorite team? TFC.
Oh, nice. What's your favorite hockey team, too? We have to represent. You're Canadian.
Okay, Toronto, even though they didn't do very well in the playoffs, I watched it. It was sad. It was very sad.
Oh, God, no. That's so sad.
Yep.
Or if you had to pick between going to a fundraiser event or a really fancy fundraiser ball, which one would you go to?
A fun fundraiser event.
Yes, love it.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
All right, when you're in your university, do you like to study in your library or study in your dorm room?
Dorm room for the most part.
All right. If you had 3 words to describe your activism style when you give speeches, what are 3 words to describe you?
I'd say pretty chill. I'm trying to think. Yeah, chill, happy, and engaging.
Awesome. And then if you had to pick 3 people to take a selfie with, whether they're alive or dead, who would you want in your group selfie?
Oh my Lord. Okay, Bruno Mars is one of them. I love him. Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson.
Ooh, nice. That's a nice roundup. I like that.
Oh yeah.
Ashley, guess what? You have made it through the 5-second challenge. Congratulations.
It made me a little bit nervous, to be honest. I don't think I answered all of them in 5 seconds, but it's okay.
That is fine. My watch didn't matter, so that was good. We made it through. We both made it through the 5-second challenge. So, a big thing for us now that our audience, our listeners, got to get to know you a little bit better. So, what we want to do is go through some of the best experiences that you've had in life as a patient and as an activist. So in this segment, we call it our illest superlatives. Yes, that is a pun on being chronically ill. So
I love puns.
I love a good pun too. So obviously the charity name. So with illest superlatives, this segment, we know that living with an illness or disability means a lot of times you gain the most life experience. And I put that in quotes because we're always told that we live the most life experience. With our illest superlatives, we want to talk to our guests about what are the best moments in their life. And for those of you watching, I'm putting best in air quotes for that reason. These can be some of the most empowering, some of the funniest, sometimes the most ignorant, or sometimes the most empathetic moments that you've experienced and are sort of ingrained in your memory as an activist and as a patient. So we're going to go through what are some of our illest superlatives in life. Okay?
Awesome.
Cool.
Sounds good.
All right. So what has been one of the best comments you've gotten from a doctor in any of the appointments you've had?
From a doctor? A best comment? Oh, that's tricky. I don't know.
I can give an example of one that's been a little more motivational. I think we have chatted about that too. I think as many people know from the charity, I've gone to a grand total of 38 doctors around the East Coast. Yes, that's a older number than I am. A big thing for me was I think it was the 21st doctor I went to. When I sat down, the first thing he asked after he saw that I was a teenager at that time, he said, "Oh, how are you feeling? What's your favorite class? What are you doing in school?" Completely didn't even ask about my health issues or the tests that I had done or procedure I had the week before. He just asked, "Oh, how's your favorite class going again?" So it was just sort of nice. I actually kind of laughed at him. I was like, "Oh, we're talking about me and not my body. Okay, that works." So for me, it was probably one of the best comments I ever got from a doctor was him just genuinely asking me about what I was doing and he knew I had tests going on for finals, and he just sort of asked questions about my day-to-day. So It made me feel a little good in the appointment.
Well, I can't think of a comment in particular, just because I'm really close with all of my doctors and nurses, which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah.
Because I've honestly known them since my adoptive parents knew me. So, I think it's just in our everyday, day-to-day conversations, honestly. Not even in terms of my health, but us talking and them asking me what I'm doing for the summer because I just recently went to a checkup.
Oh, nice.
So just having nice, everyday kind of conversations. So I can't really think of a comment in particular, but just when we're conversing, we're just being very, very conversational, being very nice. I don't know how to describe it, but it just feels so natural.
Yeah, no, and that's good.
It kind of feels like they're my aunts and uncles almost.
And that's nice. That's so wonderful to have doctors, and especially all these years they've watched you grow and ups and downs. It's nice that they take that initiative and they can continue that relationship. That's really, really great.
Or even when we talk about trips and everything. So one of my doctors had recently gone to this conference about HIV in Vancouver. And so we were just kind of talking about that, and I was asking him how it was and everything. Because he and I in particular, we've been to a conference together.
Oh, cool.
Me and my doctor.
Cool.
So that was just kind of cool, being like, "Oh, how was it this time?" and everything.
Oh.
Just just normal conversations. Sometimes it's about HIV, sometimes it's not. And it's just really nice because it kind of takes the edge off.
Oh,
Instead of just going to an everyday kind of appointment, it's kind of dull. But going to see doctors and nurses that you genuinely really like and have built this connection with for, honestly, I've known them for 20 years now.
Yeah.
My entire life.
Yeah. No, I love that. I honestly am going to a conference I'm trying to go through my doctors. I'm like, I can think of a few that would be a really good time at a conference. So that is actually really awesome.
And it's kind of cool. Like I even have some like nicknames for them too.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. What has been one of the best pieces of life advice? This can be from your parents, from your siblings. What's like sort of your go-to quote that somebody's told you going through life?
Honestly, I think it's probably from my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just said so many things. But I think it's just mainly like the ones about just always being true to yourself and staying true to yourself. And to other people too.
Yeah.
Always treating people very kindly and respectfully. Honestly, I think it just seems so simple. But my mom, she practiced what she preaches, honestly, and it works out for her benefit.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely.
Honestly, just to be yourself, be true to yourself.
Yeah, and sometimes that can be a hard thing.
That served me well my entire life.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it definitely has. So next, Illis superlative. What has been some of your favorite friend reactions about your health? So either you had a doctor's appointment, you came back to school, or your friends came to visit you after a procedure. What has been some of like the best sort of funny reactions or more like nice, empathetic reactions you've had from friends about your health?
I can definitely think of one.
Okay.
So it's actually a really funny story. It's not like in terms of my health per se,
mm-hmm.
but I think I told you I used to have like a G tube in my stomach, like
yes.
a gastronol tube.
Yes.
So I had that for about 4 years.
Okay.
And I have this scar now, and it kind of like all my family and friends, like we joke about it as being like a second belly button because it's like very straight on to where my belly button is, but it's just a little bit higher.
Mm-hmm.
And so like my mom, we've like told like family friends or whatever, and they're just like, no way. Now I want to see it type of thing, right? And like that sounds like so weird. But one time, one of my older sisters, her friends, he really wanted to see it. And so like I just pulled up my shirt a little bit because it's like, again, it's just right over my other belly button.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm like hiding, like I'm not showing anything, but I like pulled up my shirt a little bit and he saw it. And he started freaking out, but like in a good way. Like he was jumping around, and he was literally like, hoo, 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 hoo. And it was like that's literally the noises he was making. Like he just looked so excited and so like into it for some reason. And I've never gotten that response or like reaction from anybody. It was hilarious. I was just there laughing. I'm just like, for me, I'm just like, it's just like another like scar. Like it's like whatever, you know what I mean? But for him, it was like this big deal, and he was just like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Has anyone ever topped that reaction so far?
No.
That's the tough reaction.
And this was a few years ago, too. No one has surpassed that.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I had it with one of my very good friends. I had to have spinal surgery when I was 16 in the summer before our junior year of high school. So she said we were going to hang out at her house, and actually she had a I hope your surgery goes well party. So everyone was joking around. We had photos of a life-size Elvis Presley because that's my favorite musician, and it was pretty much a group of our friends, and everyone nobody got me like I hope you get well cards. There wasn't any gifts. It was just we're going to get you life-size Elvis posters to have in your hospital room, and we're just going to have a hope it goes well surgery party. And I was very confused what was happening. She's like, they're all life-size, Dominique. They're like, it's your get well for your pre-surgery. We hope it goes well. So I kept laughing the whole time going, oh my God, this is the best reaction to a bunch of teenagers hearing you're having surgery for a week, that they throw you a party, that I hope it goes well. So nobody has thrown me a medical party yet. No one has topped that. It's been 10 years. No one's thrown me a medical party yet. So we should get on that. And exactly. So what about, because I know you're in university still, so what has been one of the best tips that either you've had or somebody's mentioned to you between balancing your health and school at the same time, since I know you just started out with university too?
I guess a big thing is trying to think. I guess just staying on top of everything.
Yeah. And
just remembering, like that's a big thing, because when you're in university, you stay up late a lot of time. At least for me, I'm 100% a night owl. 100%.
Me too.
And so I find it like you just have to find that balance because, when you're out with your friends, you're just having a good time, but then you're just like, oh, wait, I still have to take my medicine. Or like you're getting home from like a long night, like whether you're just hanging out with your friends or whatever, you're studying. And then you're just like, oh, just remembering to take your medicine, just remembering to do what you're supposed to do, but also take care of your health at the same time. So get enough sleep, eat, take my medication, because it's obviously taking my medication is what is going to keep my HIV down, but also just staying healthy in general, just like eating, sleeping, just keeping on a good schedule is really important.
Scheduling was always the one thing I had to try and figure out as a good balancing tip. I had so many calendars that were attempted to be color coordinated, and then I would forget what color meant what thing, and I got very confused, but it was always keeping a schedule, or my attempt of keeping a schedule that definitely balanced being able to maintain school and my health, so one didn't fall out to the wayside. So I totally agree. That was one of the best ones. All right, and your last illest superlative, since we know that you're a motivational speaker all the time, what has been one of the best ways you've found to be an advocate, from just in your community with your friends all the way up to when you are on that stage at We Day? What has been like one of the best ways for you to be an advocate?
I think one of the ways in just like everyday sort of life, like I know that we've talked about this and everything, but when I'm meeting people for the first time, and like these days it's not even what's your number, it's what's your Snapchat, what's your Instagram, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so when you follow each other on Instagram, a lot of people, they're like, well, you have 9,000 followers. And then like they're wondering like, why? Unless they don't read my bio that perfectly well says HIV positive. But like if they don't read it, and then like sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm a motivational speaker, I do some speaking and stuff. Just like I keep it pretty low key. I say it. I'm just like, I don't say everything that I've done because that's just weird.
And it's a long resume, Ashley. It's a very long resume. We know that.
It's very long. It's very long. So usually when I talk about motivational speaking, they're just like, oh, what do you speak about? And then I'm like, okay, well, I guess the cat's out of the bag now. Time to start talking, And I find myself just advocating not only for like my own story, but just like HIV in general, because a lot of times like I'll bring it up and then people want to know more, or they might have questions. Yeah. And so then I'm just like, if they have questions and they're open enough to ask me, then I'm going to obviously answer them to the best of my ability. Yeah. Because I do know a lot, of course, but I don't know everything. So there are some things that like people have asked me, and they've honestly left. I don't know everything. It's a learning process for me every single day. But I find like that's usually how I start advocating, is like through social media, and how like kind of like word of mouth, people seeing it and they're just like, oh, so what's going on here? So I tell them. Yeah. But through speaking wise, when I'm just like doing my speeches, is that what you mean, like for like advocating for it?
Yeah, both ways, because you advocate on the day-to-day, but then also when you are in that public forum and you're being an advocate, because a lot of young people in sort of our positions, they want to be able to motivate more of the masses. So another way too, that's also a great way for everything, but what's sort of like a nice piece of advice or tip for people who want to get into more motivational speaking or advocacy outside of their community or friend group,
Yeah. So a big thing that I like to hone in on in all of my speeches, I have like these 3 things that I tell people. And I say these because they really helped me in like how I came to be in my speaking and everything. So 3 things I say is find yourself, find your voice, and find your community. And the thing that I stress about in finding your voice, I say your voice could be whatever you want it to be. It could be something you're passionate about. And so if you have something that you're passionate about, you're using your voice to educate, to tell people what you want to tell them, whether it is about HIV, so sharing your story, or say if you love the environment, telling people your story and urging them to collect garbage or whatever it may be, just using your voice in a way that is helpful, in a way that reaches out to people in order to get your message across.
Cool. Ashley, shamelessly, I'm going to be virtually taking notes on what you're saying right now. I was mentally taking a note on what you just said. I was like, that was fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Actually, it's like a perfect segue. You're making my job so easy. It's a perfect segue into the next segment we're going to be doing. So it's just completely fantastic.
Okay.
Our next segment is called First Few Words. So when we talk about this segment, like Ashley had mentioned, sometimes people do ask questions about your health, and especially for those with invisible illnesses, when it's mental health or physical health, people tend to have a little bit of more questions about that because they can't see it and there's not something they can point to and ask, or symptoms on your body or different adaptive equipment you might be using that they can just sort of ask, what is that, or why are you using that? When it's invisible illness, there tends to be more of a mystery around it because they can't see it. So for us with the first...
And there's more questions.
Exactly. And a big thing that we know is first few words is one of the biggest issues we get, and a lot of times at InvisiYouth Charity that young people or their friends will even ask us that are in that sort of quote-unquote healthy, able-bodied community, is they don't really know how to get that conversation started, whether they are the friend who wants to be supportive of their friend going through health struggles, or they want to ask questions when they know that their friend or sibling or loved one is going through an invisible illness. A lot of times they want to lend support or ask a question about it, but it's always those first few words that people tend to have the hardest time with, and they never really know what to ask. So in the first few words segment, what we're going to do is sort of talking and tackling different ways to have the best startup phrases that you and I have learned from our own experiences, from the work that we do at InvisiYouth Charity. What are some of the best startup phrases to get that ball rolling for conversation? So especially with invisible illness being our theme for the next few months, and that's something you and I both live with, what are the sort of top phrases that in different situations we've come across that we've enjoyed when people use, or ways, or some of the phrases that are not the best to use when you have friends or family asking questions? So our first one is going to be the first few words to address your illness to friends in conversation. So a lot of times for yourself, when people want to start asking questions, you can tell that you've mentioned you just came back from a doctor, or you were giving a speech, and you're around your friends. Now, a lot of them have known you and know your health story for years now, but what are some of the sort of first few words when you want to sort of just open up the conversation about, yes, I was at a doctor, yes, I just had surgery, or yes, I was just giving a speech at We Day or at a convention, I was talking about my health. So what are some of the first few words, or how you get that conversation started? Do you just sort of dive right in, or do you like to sort of cushion the conversation? What are different tips for how you've done it?
Well, usually in those sort of instances, a lot of my friends do know about speaking. And a lot of the times, like, oh, I'm going this place to do this kind of speech or whatever. And so a lot of times I find it's not really me opening the conversation, but it's like my friends, because after a speech or something and they know about it, and then I see them again, they'll be like, oh, how was your speech? Because like I don't really find myself being the one to open it up, unless like I do want to be like, oh, by the way, like when I was here, I did this and I spoke about this, or whatever it may be. But usually a lot of my friends do know when I'm speaking, and so they'll actually open it for me and to say like, oh, how it went and everything. And actually it honestly just happened too, because I have done 3 speeches in the last few days, actually.
Baller, Ashley. You're a girl boss through and through.
And so coming back, in particular, I was asked like, oh, how did your speeches go and everything? And I'm just like, they went very well and all this stuff. And then I like talk about what I talk about usually, my main pieces, because this week alone, like I did a 145-minute speech, and then I did 2 short 10-minute ones, but there's 2 of them. And so I just usually I just share with them my experience, how it went, the audience reactions, what I said, and everything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other way, because I know you and we always, when we've spoken, a lot of times the way we talk about our health journeys has been very different. I like to say with InvisiYouth Charity, we talk about like the spectrum of talking about health. You're going to bear with me on an analogy. It's like a faucet of water, and it depends how much pressure you want to give, whether it's sort of little drizzling of water, or you completely open the faucet and it's just a full flood. For us, it's sort of finding the amount of information you want to give. So from my experiences, or from other young people, I was always a little more private about my health because my illnesses were a little different. I didn't get diagnosed for many years, so I didn't really even know what to call what was going on. So for me, when I would have to answer the question, if I came into a high school or a university class with a hospital bracelet on, or I was walking in late and a teacher happened to ask what was going on with my, how was my doctor's appointment, and friends of mine had noticed, I always felt like the first few words would be like, when my friends would look and go, "Oh, what's up?" Or they would be standing waiting for the cue, as I say, of they would want to ask me a question, but they didn't know what to say, so they just sort of gave the long, awkward pause stare. I would just sort of pause and go, "Oh, well, you guys know I have some health stuff going on, right?" And they would be like, "Oh, yeah." And then so I would give a little bit of information, and I always said I gauge my friends a lot of times based on their facial reactions. So sometimes my friends would be very empathetic. You could see other times they had the sort of blanket, I call it the Joey from Friends look, sort of the confused stare, like I don't know what you're talking about, with the nodding. So for me, it was less of the beginning of me starting an answer to a health question. It was more of me gauging my friends' facial reactions of how they handled the information, whether I would give a little bit more or just sort of stop and be like, "Oh, it was a doctor." Or I would say, "Oh, no, this is the doctor and this was the hospital I was at and that's why I'm not here." So for me, it was similar to you. It was less of starting the conversation. It was more kind of being able to gauge how my friends reacted. So that's sort of the next first few words on your end is what are sort of the first few words that you would suggest or that you've had from friends too when they've wanted to ask you questions about your HIV or your other health struggles? What are sort of the first few words, suggestions, or phrases that have been ones that you've liked that friends of yours have used when they've wanted to ask questions? Because that's a big one, is your more friends who don't have health issues or aren't chronically ill or living with a disability. It's hard for them to know when to ask or what to ask. So what are some suggestions for you that you've dealt with?
Questions that I've dealt with.
Yeah.
Well, just in terms of not even like friends or anything, like this is kind of going off topic, but I've had people, like I've told my mom, actually not even me, one time we were in Calgary and she ended up telling just like random woman at a cashier.
I love it.
And when she did, this woman, she looked at me and she was just like, "Are you healthy?"
That's a relative question.
Yeah, I was just like, but I did answer correctly. I was like, "Yes, I am very healthy and everything," because I feel like a lot of people, if they're not educated, they hear HIV and they're just like, again, because it's invisible, you don't really know how they're doing, right?
Yeah.
And so some people have asked me, "Are you healthy or anything?" And I'm just like, "I've never been better." But a lot of people don't know that because, again, you can't see it.
Yeah.
So I've kind of found that kind of funny because a lot of people might just assume, "Oh my God, she's dying." but if they actually, if they know about my illness, and plus a lot of people, when I first start telling them about it, like especially in high school, I was a little bit nervous to tell people, but how I would start telling them, I'd usually just be like, "Hey, can I just talk to you for a second? Just us alone."
Yeah.
And like I'd take them somewhere and I'd just like, I just wanted to be honest with you. I wanted to open up and tell you that I was born HIV positive. And then I like kind of give like, I don't really say too much after that. And I say, "If you have any questions, just feel free to ask me anything." Because I'm an open book. Yeah. And once I tell you, there's like really no going back on that anyway.
Yeah.
And so I'm really open to anything they ask.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I know like I don't even remember all the questions I've gotten, but I know it's not coming from a place of ignorance. It's just wondering. Yeah. Like I have had people ask me like, are you okay? How's your health and stuff? I've had that a lot, like from friends, like when I'm first telling them. Yeah. And then again, I just straight up, I tell them the honest truth. I just answer any questions they may have, no matter what. Yeah. I mean, not no matter what. There could be like a few that might leave me iffy, but for the most part, everything's pretty relative. Yeah. And normal. Yeah. I haven't really been asked anything outrageous.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the biggest thing that a lot of, especially from friends or even my sister or her friends have even asked, or even family members, and like you even said, just general acquaintances you meet if they happen to see you walking out of a hospital appointment, or people that bump into my friends that I don't even know, and they can tell that they want to ask a question because they might have overheard my friend talking to me about my health. I think the big thing is just, I always suggest to people, and we always do with InvisiYouth, is just to ask the question you want to ask in a nice way, but expect that sometimes people will just want to say back, I don't really want to talk about it. And being okay with sometimes you not getting an answer to the dire question that you might end up Googling later on about somebody's health. But a big thing for us is just asking the question. There's always lending support, is just sort of saying, hey, how are you doing? Or what's going on? For us, a big thing is just if a friend of yours or somebody just sort of asks how you're doing, that's sort of a colloquial back and forth of how are you? I'm fine. How are you? But even just sort of lending that verbal support of just being like, oh, hey, how have you been lately? And how's things going for you? Has been an easy way of just sort of opening the conversation. A lot of times for us, it's just that big thing, like you even said, just asking a question. If you have overheard or somebody's asked about, even with my health or a lot of the young adults that come into InvisiYouth, when they say, oh, I have people that always want to, they look like they have that face of wanting to ask me a question, but they don't. I said, well, then ask them if they want to ask you a question. So it takes, like you said, it takes a little, you own your own health story. You can take a little control of it, and you are the one who can say no. So that's a big thing for us, is allowing people to know that even if somebody you don't know asks you a question, like that cashier lady that your mom mentioned your story to, if she had asked you, how are you healthy, you could have even answered that you didn't want to answer the question. So it's a big thing for us, is knowing that you have, as much as people have the right to ask you questions about your illness that they can't see, the person with a health struggle has just as much right to sort of respond back that they don't want to answer or give as much information they want. A lot of times I just sort of throw it back and say, oh, you can just Google it, but that'll only do you so much as well. Because I'm like, my conditions are complicated enough just on being able to spell them, let alone being able to explain to you the medical dictionary Cliff Note version of what's happening all inside my body with my nervous system and my connective tissue, and trying to come up with analogies. For us, a big thing for my friends or healthy, able-bodied individuals is just ask the questions you want to ask. It ends up, like you've even said, you can break down any sort of misconception or ignorance when people just ask the question. Or for us, it's a big phrase to use, is sort of cushioning your question. We always say it's sort of compassionate speaking, is that you start off your question saying, you don't have to answer this, but I'm curious, and then just asking the question, especially for invisible illnesses. That's been a huge thing for us that we'll always tell siblings or even parents that have come into InvisiYouth and have asked that question about wanting to talk to their children about it, or teenagers wanting to ask their friends. For us, I said, just sort of cushion your questions, guys. Just throw the importance and throw the ball into their court and say, you have every right not to ask, and if this is insulting in any way, I'm sorry, I'm just curious. And then you ask your question. And so it gives you a sort of response back going, you can take control and go, okay, I appreciate it. I don't talk about that part of my health, or this is what's going on. So for us, it's sort of cushioning your language, because sometimes even on my end, because I have a nervous system condition from an injury as an athlete many, many years ago when I was a teenager. And a lot of times people will ask questions that I always laugh, or sort of the weird questions when they hear it's nerve damage. It'll be like, oh, so does that mean you can't feel anything? Or, so how are you using both sides of your body? I'm really confused how you're walking. So I'll always laugh, and I'm quite sarcastic, so I like to throw a sense of humor back and be like, well, nerve damage doesn't mean I can't walk, not yet. And then I will explain the medical reason behind it, and then it makes them feel comfortable. If I'm able to make them laugh, they can laugh back. So that's been a big thing for us, is sort of making people laugh, feeling comfortable. And like you even said, sort of, this is your health journey, so kind of own it in that way. And it makes more people, when they want to start a conversation, feel comfortable to do that too.
Exactly. And I feel like the most important thing in that kind of situation is to be comfortable. Because if you're not comfortable, then how's the other person going to feel?
Exactly. And even if you're not, because that took even for me, it took many years of getting a diagnosis and then getting another diagnosis after my sports injury. It was more being comfortable in knowing I wasn't comfortable having a chronic illness for a while, of just knowing it made me a little uneasy and I felt a little uncomfortable with it. That to me was a big saving grace, was just knowing I'm not really comfortable talking about this to anybody. And my friends would go, oh, okay, I'm sorry. And I'm like, no, it's fine, but I appreciate you asking. So for me, it was even trying to gain ownership, and then even if you're still kind of uneasy about it, just being able to do it both ways has been it's a big sort of tip for everybody when you're trying to, because that's the big thing, isn't it, when it's an invisible illness, is trying to open a conversation. A lot of times it's always people want to ask questions about what they can't say, so it's something that we're always sort of working on, is trying to get people comfortable about things that they don't understand necessarily.
Exactly. And it's just all about the way you handle it, I find.
Yeah.
Because I found times myself where I've been very nervous, and so the other person's very nervous about it, because, like, HIV, yes, it is pretty big, but it's not as scary as you make it out to be.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you're nervous, then the other person's going to be like, oh, no, then there's something I have to worry about.
Yeah.
But if you go in there, you're calm, cool, collected, and just like, well, I have HIV, and which is why that's pretty much all I say. I have HIV. I was born with it. If you have any questions at all, please ask me.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't even have to be in person, because some people don't feel comfortable asking things. But what I appreciate is when people say, may I ask a question? Or,
yes, ask permission. Always.
Yeah.
I always say that. Don't just jump to a question. Be like, can I ask you this first? Because some people's questions aren't a fun thing. So it's definitely, I definitely ask a question. So Ashley.
And it just comes from a place of respect.
Totally. That's just human respect, guys. That's the number one thing. So Ashley, I'm going to ask you another question. Do you want to play another game?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So we know from what I mentioned in Ashley's bio, Ashley is a singer as well. So our next game is another pun, as Ashley and I love. What's on your life playlist? So for us, we love to encourage young adults at InvisiYouth Charity to develop all different types of playlists for the different situations they go through, whether you're waiting for during a treatment session, or you're in PT, or you're driving to different doctor's appointments, or you're just sort of trying to meditate and relax in your house or in your dorm room. We like to have people who have all different types of playlists. So in the What's Your Life playlist segment, we get to chat about different ideas, different gifts, tips, music, different apps, YouTube shows that have helped you sort of handle different situations, so we can hopefully get some good ideas and tips to all of you guys of different places that you can look to get some nice tips. So Ashley, I want to ask, so for lots of times when you're sort of going to different hospital appointments or different treatments, do you have different, go-to artists that you'll listen to that are either more motivating and they'll be more if you're working out, and then artists that are a little more calming, and music that you listen to if you need to, relax after a treatment? So what are sort of your go-to musicians to listen to for different situations?
For different situations.
Or do you like to have a nice sort of even mix? Or is music, because I imagine it would for you, is music sort of a nice thing for you to have when you're going through different treatments and different, if you're having a bad health day?
Definitely. I definitely do rely on music a lot to help me with things, or if I'm happy. Obviously I want to listen to happy, joyful songs, or if I'm sad, and even though it doesn't make you feel better, sometimes listening to sad songs, or just more slow songs. Motivating. I feel like listening to happy music definitely helps, or just songs that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
And songs that just make me feel happy, I guess. So I'm trying to think of some go-to artists. I don't know if I have artists, but I know I definitely have songs.
Okay, well, I'm gonna joke. Bruno Mars is probably one of your favorite. One of the songs you'll pick is from him.
Oh yeah, I love Bruno Mars is definitely up there on some of my top favorite musicians ever. So definitely he's got to be on there. There's this one song by Alessia Cara called "Stay."
Okay.
And that, whenever I want to be in a good mood, because I remember a couple weeks ago I was kind of feeling down, and I was telling my friend that, she's just like, just listen to some happy music, just something that makes you happy. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And so I immediately went to that song.
Yeah.
Like, not just her as an artist. I mean, I really like her as an artist, but that one song for me really puts me in a good mood because it makes me think of really good times.
Yeah.
So I find that's what I like put on, like when I want to feel happy, is things that make me happy, things that make me think of good times. So yeah, that song, or just like pump up music, I guess.
Ooh,
so
good one.
I'm into very many different genres. Like I've heard people be like, everything but not country or something like that, and I'll be like, I love everything and then country as well.
Yeah, there we go. I love it.
Yeah, I think it just depends on the mood I'm in. Motivational, definitely just like I just put on something with like a good beat, something that's very happy.
Yeah.
Maybe some rap sometimes because I don't know, just like with the beat, it like pumps you up. So of course I'm from Canada, Toronto. I love Drake.
Of course.
That's definitely someone I listen to quite often, for sure. I'm not gonna lie. Or just like people that I just like really like. So people that I've like, singers in particular I've been really liking recently. If you know the artist Rex Orange County.
Okay. No, I haven't heard of that.
It's one guy. He has some sad songs, but he has some happy songs. But whenever I think of him, I just think of like good memories.
Oh,
So
nice.
I always put on him.
Cool.
He makes me happy. Or trying to think of some other people at the moment that I know I've been listening to a lot. John Legend, he's a really great one. I really like listening to his music. He's a good one to pump up too. Bruno Mars. Just like people like that. People with some really nice voices.
Yeah.
And music that has like a lot of depth to it too.
That's
I
true.
enjoy that. And obviously music about being happy and whatnot, things that put you in a good mood. Definitely,
That's
for
true.
sure.
That's true. What about sort of like any like TV shows? So like whether they're on YouTube, the internet, Netflix, Hulu, what are some like shows that if you're having like a day you need to like be in bed and rest, what are some shows that you'll like jump to binge watch, whether they're YouTube Red, Hulu, general cable? What are some of your like go-to shows that are like, oh, I always will put this on even if it's a rerun, I will always put this on to watch?
Oh, one show that I haven't seen all of it yet, and it's old, but I'm really trying to catch up, is Gossip Girl.
Oh my gosh, the memories.
Love it. I mean, I feel like I was too young when it started, so now I'm just, I mean, I'm trying. I'm not a very good binge watcher.
Yeah.
Just because like it'll take me a while. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'll watch it all. I'll watch it in full, but it just takes me a while just because I could spend maybe like a day watching something, but like 2 days, 3 days, that straight just watching like Netflix, I find it's a little too much for me.
I don't have the mental focus for binge watching. I wish I did.
See, I think that's the thing. I don't have enough focus to binge watch a show. Like I can watch like a few episodes.
Yeah.
But then I'll be like, oh, well, now I want to get food. Oh, now I want to do this. Oh, a YouTube video? Let me watch this. You just scatterbrained. But Gossip Girl is like my number one show right now, for sure. Like if I'm just like, I just want to watch some Netflix, I'll be like, Gossip Girl. Riverdale I watch, but I still have to catch up on that. Oh my gosh, so much has happened.
Season finale this week. So what about YouTube? So you mentioned YouTube. Are there any sort of, that's a big one we'll always suggest to people, especially if they need like a break, like a quick break. We'll always suggest like find some YouTubers you like, whether they're more like beauty hauls or go-to or funny ones. Do you have any sort of not even specific YouTubers, but like types of YouTube videos that you like to sort of throw in there in your playlist?
Yeah, I like to watch people that make me laugh, for sure.
Yeah.
If I'm like having a rough day and I just like, I want to watch someone that makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Definitely there's, I don't know if there's like a lot of YouTubers I can think of, but like one that makes me laugh in particular, is this guy named Joe Santagato, and he's from New York.
Okay.
And he's very out there. He's very brash. He doesn't really apologize for what he says, but like he's hilarious, and I will watch him on a bad day for sure. Recently I just watched him just because I was just like, I want to laugh. And I'm like, what should I watch? And I was like, him, definitely him. Or someone that's always put me in a good mood, who I've honestly looked up to and loved since I was 14 years old, is this YouTuber called Franta.
Yes, I know him. Not know him personally. Not shouting that out, but I know of him. There we go.
I mean, I've met him in person.
Of course you have, Ashley.
That was, oh my goodness. Yeah, I've honestly loved him since I was 14 years old, and he always used to post on Mondays. And so, Mondays, they're kind of like, they're like drab, they're boring, whatever. But I would always remember when I come home from school, a Connor Franta video will be up, and my Mondays will just get so much better. And so I just like kept watching him and watching him. I'm not as much of an avid watcher as him anymore.
Yeah.
Just because there's so many other people thrown into the mix.
Yeah.
But when I do watch him, I was just like, after I watch those videos, I'm like, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Or like, he's just someone that puts me in a good mood. And I was able to meet him at a Wii Day I went to. And I was super starstruck. I almost didn't want to go meet him because I was too shy. But like my mom pushed me towards him, and thank God she did. Because I met him and I got a picture with him. And I told him, I said, honestly, I looked forward to your videos every single day as it like growing up in high school. I was just like, Mondays were happening, your videos were happening. I was just like, my day, I told him, you honestly turned my day around.
Oh, good. Shout out to Connor. Shout out to him.
And he was like super happy with that. He had a big smile on his face, and he was like, thank you so much. And just honestly such a humble, down-to-earth person. So recently when I watched one of his videos, I'm like, I need to watch him more. I'm just like, I'm very happy.
I love it. I love it. What about some like apps that you have on your phone? Do you have any sort of, even if it's just basic like note taking or like your Google schedule, Instagram, what are some of your like go-to apps, or even apps that are like specific for scheduling or meditation apps? What are some like good ones that are on your like life playlist as apps or tools on your phone that are good to like de-stress or like fun activity for you?
To be honest, I don't have too many of those.
Yeah.
I don't have like a meditation app or anything, but I do have a workout app.
Oh, cool.
So like that, I can't even remember what it's called at this moment in time, but I think it pretty much just says workout. But I'll use that if I want to like work out. I have a couple of games on my phone. Like I still have the old Flappy Bird.
Oh my gosh,
which is actually pretty fun. I haven't gotten rid of it. So if there's just one day I'm just like, what game do I want to play? I'll be like, maybe some Flappy Bird.
Bringing back the nostalgia. I love it.
But that's also a stressor too.
Yeah.
I remember like playing that. That is a stressful game, but it's fun and it's addicting. I found that to be like the same way as like Candy Crush.
I never did Candy Crush because everyone always told me it would become so addicting, and I went, I can't do that in my life.
I can't do this. I feel like the things that it's not so much games. Like if I just want to like chill and relax, I'll go on like Instagram or something.
Yeah.
I feel like Instagram or Snapchat are like the two things I use the most. I use Twitter a lot too.
Yeah.
Just to express whatever, advocate for whatever I'm doing. But those are like the two apps that I just use the most.
Yeah.
Whether not even like a distressor or anything, but they just like I just enjoy using them.
Yeah.
I think that's like an important thing. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
And like I have some games like I said, like Flappy Bird, and then there's a game I like called Mastermind.
Okay.
That's a fun one.
Yeah. No,
I don't know if you've heard of that one.
Yeah, no, I have. I'm a big believer of like, I love sort of like searching the App Store, even if I like never add them onto my phone. I always will make sure that with InvisiYouth, we always encourage people to like look through different ones. Like we had mentioned before, scheduling is a huge deal. And having nerve damage, sometimes you have a little bit of short-term memory loss and some brain fog, as many people out there will know what that means. So I always will encourage, I have schedulers, I have a note-taking app, and then a sticky note app, and some of them have timers on them, and then they sync to my computer. So I'm always looking for like the newest version of a sticky note or a Post-it to put into my phone. Always just sort of looking there to be able to find that. And then love books, so being able to kind of have books, and especially either being able to read them on my phone or being able to have the books read back to me in audio. That's been a massive one for me. I always say is a good de-stressor is listening to books and kind of going in, reading a chapter. So it's like a nice little daily thing for me to kind of do. But totally, note-taking apps are literally lifesavers. Otherwise, I would probably be able to franchise my own business with as many Post-it notes as I probably use on a day-to-day. So Post-it notes are literally the goal.
I use my notes apps like all the time.
Oh, I
Like
know.
whether I feel like a lot of times, like if I'm just like thinking about something, I'm like, oh, I want to remember this, so I write it down, or something. I'm feeling a type of way. I use my notes a lot for music purposes,
Yeah.
because I'm a big music fan,
Yeah.
and I know like I could use Shazam and stuff, but like sometimes I don't, and I'm just like, oh my God, what is this song? Because sometimes I forget that Shazam is a thing, because even though I use it all the time, like I'll write it down in my notes or something like that. Or if I want to remember something that someone said, I'll write it down in my notes just as a reminder.
Yeah.
Or something funny that happened, like I want to make sure I remember, so I write it down. Another app that just kind of like got me to thinking when you're saying like everything that was daily, just something that kind of just makes me like chill out, and something that I like. I like the Bible app, and I've been using that a lot.
Yeah.
So like, I'm trying to keep a streak, but it's hard. Like there's a streak that you do like if you like open it every single day.
Oh, okay.
And so I've broken that streak a couple of times. I have to get it back going again.
Look at
But,
that getting all catchy in 21st century. I love that. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. Yeah, like I didn't even realize at first that it like counts your streaks, and it'll like tell you how like the longest period of time that you've been on the app for. Be like, oh, like your streak was 2
Cool.
weeks or whatever. It says best streak, worst streak, and so like it keeps you motivated to want to keep opening it and reading it. So I try and do that as much as I can remember.
Oh, I love
honestly.
that. I love
Because
that.
I do forget sometimes, but I enjoy the app, and I like reading the passages.
Yeah.
Because there's a Bible passage for every single day.
Oh, cool.
And it makes you feel good. I really enjoy that app.
I love that. That's actually like shout out to the Bible. I really enjoy that.
Yeah. Yeah, shout out to the Bible.
It's a great way to end that segment and go to our last one, Ashley. So we're going to end that one there. Our last segment, I know, is probably one of my personal favorites. It's called Break That Glass Ceiling. So for us, and something that you do with your activism work all the time, and often a lot of people want to know, is how to challenge those stereotypes and shatter norms. So that's why we call it To Break That Glass Ceiling. So we talk about the theme of these next few months, which is invisible illness, and we really get to talk to our guests that are super passionate about it, and figure out ways of being able to end stigma on invisible illness. What are some of the stigmas that people have about invisible illness? How, in our minds, we feel that we can crack that ceiling and open some minds more. So that's what's going to be sort of how we're going to end the show, is having our guest expert advocate here with you, Ashley, sort of talking about why you think there's some stigmas on invisible illness and ways we feel we can open those minds and crack that glass ceiling. So starting off, why do you really feel like there's so many stigmas that'll come with invisible illnesses, especially because even you and I have been discussing, your illness is a little more universally known, and then my illnesses have too many letters and acronyms to even list out on a show. So why do you feel like there are stigmas when it comes to invisible illness?
Definitely a thing is, like, as we've been talking about, it's because people don't know what they can't see.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big thing, like, say, religion, for example. Some people don't believe in God because they can't see him. They're just like, how do they know it's real? Mm-hmm. It's almost like the same thing with invisible illness, but not really, because people don't know what's going on and how it affects you. So that's why I usually say, like, in my speeches, I'm like, I look like a pretty normal girl, right? And everyone, actually, the other day at my speech, when I said that, all I heard someone from the back yelled, "Yeah!" She's like, "Yeah, you look normal." I'm just like, which I found like super funny. I just like kept going on with my speech, but I asked that because I wanna open people's minds. I'm just like, well, you think that I'm just like a normal girl, which I am, but there's just something that's unnormal or just like not the norm.
Yeah.
Which is for sure, like HIV, not everybody has it.
Yeah.
And so that's like a way that I say that because, and that's one way in particular that I break down any stigmas that people have towards it, because like I've heard them all. Like I've heard like a lot of people think that it's only gay people and black people. And as much as I don't want to say that, that is a big stereotype, and it's real. As much as I don't want it to be, it's real.
Yeah.
And so when I go on stage and I say, hey, white girls from Canada who grew up in a small suburban town can have HIV too. It's just like completely breaking down that wall and being like, wow, really? And actually, this is quite interesting. So Kwaku Mandela, Nelson Mandela's grandson, is a good friend of mine, which is super crazy to say.
Shameless plug
But
again, Ashley.
when we
Drop
did
names.
the We Day tour a couple years ago. I know.
Dropping the names. Let me
dropper.
pick that up for you.
So one time at a We Day, we were talking, and he said, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but you are exactly what we're looking for in the HIV fight. Because like he said to me, you are not what people expect. Because again, with either like someone being from Africa or black, gay, they don't see someone as being like
Yep.
a normal teenager who could literally go on a date with some like regular boy at like a university. Like you never know.
Yeah.
It's like it's like right in your backyard.
Yeah.
Type of thing, which is why it's so real. Because again, like I said, that breaks the stigma right away and breaks those stereotypes that people have. So I think that's why I open it up the way I do. And I say, even though I have this, it's something that you can't see, it's invisible. I am doing okay, which I think it's funny when people ask me like, are you healthy? Because like I said, it's like not something you can see. And so bringing that up in particular kind of just further tells you that anybody can get it, and it makes it really real.
Yeah.
And that makes people go like, oh crap, maybe I should be careful. Maybe I should get educated. Maybe I should get tested. And it gets like a lot of people thinking. Because I feel like, especially in terms of like HIV, everyone should be educated. And the thing is that not a lot of people are.
Yeah.
Which is where I kind of step in.
Yeah.
Because I've been doing it for 10 years, and it's not because like I feel like I have to. I mean, in a way, sometimes I feel like I do because of some people who are ignorant, but I want to. Because I don't feel really obligated, but I really enjoy, just personally, like I find it fun.
Yeah.
I find it fun educating, and I find it fun. What I really enjoy is people coming up to me and telling me that they didn't know a lot of the stuff. And now they do.
Yeah.
And every time I speak, I do like a little game with people in terms of like to get people educated. And I will present them with some statements, and I say, if you think this is true, why don't you clap your hands? If you think this is false, why don't you stomp your feet?
Yeah.
And so I just like present them with statements. And when I'm looking around the room, I see after I present a statement, I'm just like, wow, these many people know it, or these many people don't.
Yeah.
About something that I'm saying. And so after they chime in with their response, that's when I start. Be like, if you thought this is true, you're right. And then I just educate.
Yeah. Totally.
And
I totally
I found
agree.
that it's super helpful.
Totally. I have to.
Like I said, it helps to break down.
Yeah, I have to agree, because kind of going both ways too, especially with the charity and having, when invisible illness, a lot of times people immediately assume it's only mental health and that whole spectrum. And then, but invisible illness also is physical. And then a lot of times it's physical and mental, because your mental health and your mental wellness sort of gets affected by having a physical illness. And for us, a big thing that causes stigma is exactly like you said, is the misconception that what we'll say at InvisiYouth is that visibility equals validity. So that if I can see what's going on, like when you were a child, we always say kids at a very young age, when they're sick or get injured, they're sort of told right away, okay, show and point to me where you got hit. Where's your boo-boo? Right away for little kids. And so that becomes sort of ingrained that when you become a teenager and a young adult and an adult, that if something's going on, that the only way to respond is if you can see it to get it and gain validity from that. So for us, it's always been a big thing, is that because, like you said, when people can't see it and then you're talking about how it's affecting your physical body or why you're taking medications or why you look tired, it's so hard for people to go, well, but you look sort of okay. So that's a big thing for us too, because the misconception is that illness means you don't look good, or that it's physically disabled and you physically can see it. So that for us is a big thing, is anytime, if you even, like, you're one of our global brand leaders, if when you go on our website and look at our global brand leaders page, and in 3 countries of all of the young women we have, there's only a small handful of them that you would physically look at their illnesses. If they're in a wheelchair, they have oxygen, or if they have scars from implants, from cochlears, you would look and go, okay, you see it. But then you look at everyone else, similar to having you on our page or having my founder story, you would go, all right, this makes no sense. And then you hear about a lot of the complex medical needs that some of them have, and you're going, wow, I have no idea. In a way, I always joke and say you can walk down the street and see more people with you see chronic illness every single day. It's the fact that you're not wearing the right glasses. You can't really see. It's like needing x-ray goggles to actually see what people's chronic health issues are. So for us, that's the reason is because people rely on visible symptoms in order to gauge. It becomes hard then to sort of support other people with and having those stigmas, because it's easier to get a misconception when you can't see it. It's hard to make a misconception about why somebody is in a wheelchair or why somebody is using prosthetics when it's more of an obvious reason. Or even if somebody is using those things and you don't understand why, when there's a physical object or a physical symptom, it's a little bit easier to sort of gauge or lend more support because you can see that they need it, except for if you don't see it, it's harder for people to want to support. So that's a big thing for us, is sort of being able to crack that. So I know for a big thing for you that you do is how you crack that glass ceiling, how you open minds, is because you do a lot of motivational speaking, you do advocacy, and but what's sort of other ways? I know one way I was going to suggest is that for the charity, ways to crack stigmas and open minds is sort of, for some people, I was very private about my health, so it's sort of finding ways of challenging it only when it came to my scenario. But for you, do you find that positive social media use, because that's a big thing for young adults, do you feel that positive social media use is a good way to sort of open minds and break stigmas, is how you use your social media platform?
Definitely, like what I said about like it being on my bio and stuff like that. Well, I use Twitter more for the advocacy, and I do on my Instagram, but it's more just kind of like about my life, me being the teenager that I am, and just being as normal as I can be. But a lot of times, like when people do see that, like the HIV, some people don't even ask me. I've had people text me. They're like, "Oh, I saw on your Instagram it says that you're HIV positive and stuff. Is that true?" And I'm like, yeah, it's true. And then they'll be like, oh, cool. Or like, oh, I mean, a lot of times I don't get questions via text. Usually it's more like an in-person thing. Yeah. But I found that has just been a useful tool to kind of let people know. Yeah. And they're just kind of like, oh, because like at first it's just like 1 minute I thought she was just like a normal university friend. Next thing I know, she has HIV. Yeah. What are the odds? Like what? And it just kind of like catches people off guard. Yeah. But I feel like in a good way. And honestly, like it used to kind of bother me sometimes, like not like I've had like maybe in like grade 9 or 10, like this one girl one time, she out of the blue, I was like talking with some friends. She randomly came up to me. She was like, "You have HIV?" or something like that. And I'm just like,
good conversation opener.
Yeah. She just asked me. And I honestly, at that moment in time, I did say no. But that's because I was in grade 9. I was only 14. And it just, like, that was the first time I'd been like, whoa, like it just caught me off guard. Yeah. But then the next day I went to talk to her and I was just like, hey, I want to let you know, yes, I am HIV positive. I know I said no. But that's because I was just very caught off guard. I was kind of scared. Yeah. And I didn't want to lie to you. It is true. It just made me a little nervous. And I was very open and honest. And I feel like that's the most important thing. And since that day, I'm actually glad that happened. Because it was very much so a learning opportunity for me. Yeah. And honestly, since then, people have asked, like if someone was to like come up to me, I mean, if I knew them well enough, and they're just like, "Hey, Ash, do you have HIV?" Be like, yeah, I was born with it. Yeah. And if they're like, "Cool," I'd be like, "Cool." And then if they ask me questions, I'd be like, "Okay." Yeah. Like I'm down, like kind of how you said earlier about like you have to like cliff note everything and like you're an encyclopedia. But I find that when I start talking about it like a little bit, like it just kind of whole can of worms comes out. I am an encyclopedia. I am the encyclopedia. Yeah. I just educate. Yeah. And I always say a big way to sort of crack stigma for people who aren't even, who don't want to like advocate their own health. I always say, because even you have a lot of friends who are very supportive of your health journey that don't deal with invisible illness or mental health. So I think a big thing for them is just sort of finding causes similar to finding InvisiYouth, finding charities that focus on specific, that are mental health or different invisible illnesses too, and just sort of being able to, when they're doing advocacy campaigns,
means, just share it. It's your age group. So I always say if there's things that are happening to other young adults, and like InvisiYouth works with young adults with all illnesses or disabilities, when we're talking about invisible illness, even if it is your health journey and you're more private about it, just sort of share it. Show your support to other young people. And I think that's a nice way that even if you are a little more private about your health journey, it's been a good way to sort of lend support, pay it forward. Even if you have no health issues or disabilities or dealing with mental or physical health issues, and it's always a nice way to sort of lend support of your peers or classmates when you're going, oh wow, I didn't notice that was what was going on. Just sort of being able to always lend support and ask questions, so then you can learn a little bit more, makes the invisible illnesses a lot more visible, so that you can just sort of universally be more open-minded. Yeah, educated, more open-minded to going, oh, okay, wow, I don't need to see that somebody has an illness or disability to know that they do. Okay, that makes sense. And just sort of lending support, even as basic as sending a retweet or a repost, is sort of, as we say, is sort of the best way of being able to start breaking down the stigmas. If more and more people see it, then more and more people are going to want to challenge it.
Exactly.
Cool.
I'm very glad that I've never had anyone really question it, like the validity of my HIV. Like, people have just kind of taken it as fact. Yeah. Because also, in a way, like, that's a pretty hard thing to just like lie about, you know? I feel like that would just be like a weird thing to lie about.
It would be weird to put in your bio, Ashley, I'm not going to lie, if it wasn't real. It would be a little weird.
I feel like for me, in my case, everyone just kind of believes it. Yeah. Just because they're just like, again, why? How would you just be like randomly being like, oh, I have HIV, but like not actually? Yeah. Because like that's like that would be a weird thing to hide. Yeah. So just like the fact that I'm saying it, it's just like, oh, okay, you do. Yeah. And if people want to know more, then they'll ask. So I think it's kind of easy in my situation, and being so open. I've never really had a moment when people have asked me a question, I've just kind of shut them down. Yeah. I've always just kind of answered. Yeah. Answer the way you want to answer and ask the questions you want to ask. That's what we will always say at the charity, is what makes you comfortable is how other people will then answer, especially when it's an invisible illness. You want to be able to challenge those stigmas the way that you feel comfortable, or showing support the way that you feel comfortable, because there's a lot of options out there, especially with social media now, and us even doing this as a video podcast series. There's so many different ways of being able to bring advocacy and everything to different forms. So actually, Ashley, you have made it to the end of the very first InvisiYouth chat session episode. So I have. You have, and that hour just flew by. Right? Honestly. I'm so thankful that you've been our first guest. Literally, there would have been nobody better suited to start this whole virtual programming part for InvisiYouth charity with. So I want you to be able to tell all the listeners and people watching the video too, as we would do, what are your handles on Instagram and Twitter, or where can people find you if they want to learn more or get in touch with you? Both. I have a Facebook. Okay, cool. There's a professional, then there's a private one. So the professional, I have like blonde hair in it, so you'll be able to tell. It's Ashley Rose Murphy. My Instagram and my Twitter, they're both the same. They're the Ashley Rose _. Cool. Those are the ones that I use like the most. Cool. And then same thing with InvisiYouth. We are on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at InvisiYouth. So definitely give us a follow, and you can follow more of the episodes and see all of our other global brand leaders and projects and events that we're doing. You can please see this podcast on our YouTube channel, and then be able to listen to the podcast on all of the different networks, which we will be sharing on our website, on our new video podcast page, as well as in the description boxes that you'll be able to see, and on all of our social media. So I want to thank Ashley again for being our very first guest. We're excited to have our next guest on, where we're going to be talking about more fun ways of tackling stigma on invisible illness and mental health, giving you some life hacks and some funny moments and games along the way. I'm Dominique Vale, and thank you guys for watching so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Bye. Thank you so much.